of a quadratic function or the equation of a parabola. Right? Now, if you want to find the equation, okay, the equation of a parabola, the equation of a parabola can be determined by using the equation f of x equal to a times x minus x1 times x minus x2. Okay? Where x1 and x2 are the x-intercepts. Okay? A is a constant and and x is a value on another point along the graph. Okay? Now this x, it has got a corresponding y value. Okay? So that corresponding y value is going to be equal to f of x. So here I can add and say such that where we have got x, our y value will be f of x. Like that. Okay. So make sure you know this equation. If you want to find the equation of a quadratic function or the equation of a parabola, you use this equation. Okay? The A is a constant that determines the shape of the graph. Right? This x and that x, you must substitute the same value of x there. You cannot substitute two different values of x here. Whatever x value you put here and there must be the same, and it will have a corresponding y value which will be equal to f of x. Remember, f of x is the same as y. F of x is the same as y. Alright? So in most cases, you are supposed to get the A. So you'll be given x1, x2. x1 and x2 are the x-intercepts. That is the values of x where the graph touches the x-axis. Okay, don't worry, you'll see an example just now. So make sure you are aware of that. So you have to find this first in most cases. Alright, so here I have some examples that I'm going to do 4 examples. I'll probably maybe do 2 or 3, okay? But I need to make sure that we are on the same page with regard to how to find the equation of a parabola, okay? Don't worry, if you tried to do the homework yesterday and you couldn't do it, it's fine, because I'm going to clarify how to get it now. So, let's start by doing question A. Okay, let's do question A. So our next of a parabola, you use the following equation. F of x equal to a times x minus x1 times x minus x2. That's the equation which is generally used. And remember, this f of x is y. This f of x here, it's equal to y. So you can write the equation as y equal to a times x minus x1 times x minus x2. So, if you remember very well, when I started the topic, I told you that the general equation of a quadratic function is f of x equal to ax squared plus q. Okay? So, when you want to find the equation of a quadratic function, you have to use either one of these two. Okay? So far, I have spoken about the second one, f of x equal to ax squared plus q. Right? And this one, I'm introducing it. So at least you had one equation that you knew in terms of the general equations of a quadratic function. Okay, so for our question now, if you look at it, we don't have x1, we don't have x2 because the graph does not touch the x-axis. I hope you can all see that. Because of that, we can't use the first one because we don't know what x1 is, what x2 is. So we can't use the first equation. It means we have to use the second equation, which you know from the beginning of the topic on the quadratic function. So I'm going to use number 2. Okay, the good thing about number 2 is I am given a point along the graph. X is minus 1, y is 6. I also know the turning point. And remember, the value at the turning point here is equal to q. So our q is going to be equal to 2. So I'll write here q is equal to 2, which means I can write the equation as f of x equal to ax squared plus 2. Okay, once we know what q is, it becomes easy. So we are going to use this point where x is minus 1 and y is 6. So when there is f of x, we will put the y value, which is 6.
Sir,
Yes? Alright. So when there is f of x, we put 6 because y at this point here, y is 6 and x is minus 1. The objective is to determine the value of a first. Okay, so if you simplify, you get 6 equal to a, because minus 1 squared gives you positive 1. So you get a plus 2. Then you take the 2 to the left, you get 4 equal to a. Now, if you remember well, when I first introduced the topic under properties, I told you that if the coefficient of x squared is positive, like in this case, it means the graph must have a smiley face, which means my value of a is correct because it is positive. If a is positive, then we are supposed to have a smiley face, like what we have. Okay? So always when you are trying to find the equation, use common sense. Look at the given graph in terms of the shape and also the value of a that you would have calculated. They must match. The shape of the graph and the value of a must match. Like in this question here, I can't get a value of a which is negative when the graph is a smiley face. It won't make sense. Okay? Then I'm not done here. So I can write, now I know that my a is 4. It means that my equation will be f of x is equal to 4x squared plus 2. That's my equation. That's the equation. f of x would equal to 4x squared plus 2. If you want, you can even write it as y equal to 4x squared plus 2. It's the same thing. Okay? Alright. So, here, if you look at C now, based on these two equations, if you look at C, you find that our x1 is there. I can call this one my x1, that is my x1, I can call it equal to minus 3. In my case, I prefer to take the negative of the x-intercepts as my x1. Then that will be my x2. There is no specific rule, it's up to you. You can put the negative 3 or the positive 3. If you put negative 3 here, then you put positive 3 there. If you put positive 3 here, you put negative 3 there. You still get the same answer. But I just prefer to make my x1 negative and my x2 positive. So I have x1, I have x2. Okay? I also have a point, which is that. That point, I have the x value, which is negative 2. I also have the y value, which is minus 5. Which means I don't need to use this equation because I don't know what q is. Okay? If you look at the graph, you cannot determine q. Remember, q is a y value, okay, such that it is also called the y-intercept. So the q is supposed to be here, but there is no value. So we can't use the second equation. Alright? We can't use the second equation. Okay, so I'm going to use the first equation here. So I'll write here f of x is equal to a times x minus x1 times x minus x2. Okay? Then, where there is f of x, I'll put minus 5. The objective is to determine the value of a first. In most of these questions, you have to find a first. So put my a. Where there is x here, I'll put minus 2. Where there is x1, I'll put minus 3. But the minus 3 must be in brackets because this minus here is the minus of the formula. Okay? So you must put the minus 3 in brackets. Then where there is x there, here, it's the same x there. So I put minus 2, so I'm going to put minus 2 as well. So I'll put minus 2, minus 3, because my x2 is positive 3. Remember, when I calculate my a, it must be positive because the graph has a smiley face. So let's see if I'm going to get a positive a. So we'll get minus 5 equal to a times minus 2 minus minus 3. That will give me positive 1. Minus 2 times minus 3 will give me negative 5. So I'll get minus 5 equal to minus 5a. So my a will be positive 1. And that's correct. Okay? Now I need to find my equation. Now to get the equation, you must go back to the original equation, this one here. You substitute the value of a here, which is 1. You must put the x1, the x2, but you no longer need to substitute a y value and this x and that x. Okay? So, when you want to find the equation after calculating the value of a, you go back to the original equation, you substitute the a, okay, you substitute x1 and x2. You don't have to substitute f of x and x, no. Okay, so let's carry on now. So where there is f of x, I'll put f of x. Where there is a, I'll put 1. Where there is x, I'll put x. Where there is x1, I'll put minus 3. And where there is x2, I'll put 3. Alright. Then we simplify, so we get f of x equal to, this is 1 times, that becomes x plus 3 times x minus 3. This 1 here, it is the same as just writing the equation as f of x equal to x plus 3 times x minus 3. If I simplify the left hand side, I will get x times x, which is x squared, x times minus 3, I'll get minus 3x, 3 times x, I'll get positive 3x, plus 3 times minus 3, I'll get minus 9. These two will give me 0. So my equation of that graph will be f of x equal to x squared minus 9. Okay, so that's how you determine the equation. So I'm going to give you an exercise, then I'll go to the homework which I gave you yesterday. So I'll give you an exercise now. All right, I'm back now. Have you managed to do the question? Yeah, we don't have lots of time. I need to. All right, so remember, if you want to determine the equation of any quadratic function, you must remember the following two equations. F of x equal to ax squared plus q. That's the main general equation. Or f of x equal to a times x minus x1 times x minus x2. Okay, so you use any one of these two to find the equation of any quadratic function. So the graph that we are given here, we have an x-intercept and another x-intercept. We also have a point. So we have to use that one. So we use number 2. So if I write my equation, f of x is equal to a times x minus x1 times x minus x2. Where there is f of x, I'll put the y value because the y value is the same as f of x. So I'll put 15 there. Where there is a, I'll put a. Where there is x here, I'll put that x value, which is minus 1. Minus x1, I'll put that x value. Remember I said you can put the positive x here, or you can put it there, whichever you prefer. I prefer to put the negative x-intercept here. Yeah? Times, if you put minus 1 here, you can also put minus 1 there. Minus 4. Then you simplify. Now, if you look at our graph, it has got a maximum turning point, which means it's a sad graph. It has a sad face. So our a must be negative. So we get a times 3 times minus 5. So this will give you 15 equal to minus 15a. So a will equal to minus 1. So our a is minus 1. Once you get the a value, you substitute the a value back into that equation. Then you don't put a y, you don't put x, you don't put x. You put x1, you put x2. Okay? So we'll end up having f of x is equal to minus 1 times x minus 4 times x minus 4. So that will give me f of x equal to minus 1 times x plus 4 times x minus 4. Okay? Now, because we have got this minus 1 here, I'm going to simplify this part first. So I'll have minus 1, x times x, that's x squared. X times minus 4, that's minus 4x. Positive 4 times x, that will give me positive 4x. Positive 4 times minus 4, that's minus 16. These two will give me 0. So my equation will become f of x equal to minus 1 times x squared minus 16. Then I'll remove the brackets. Minus 1 times x squared will give me minus x squared. Minus 1 times minus 16 will give me positive 16. So my equation will be that one. So this is the equation of that given graph. And please note that there is a minus here. We have that minus, which is because of that. Okay, and it corresponds to a set face. Okay.